Now, we've seen how to install Bootstrap and what it can do, but before jumping headfirst into designing our website, the first thing I want to talk about is what the workflow of a web designer might look like. And a lot of times, if you're working as a web designer, one of the first things that you will do before touching any code, any CSS, or even creating your HTML structure, the first thing that you need to do is to wireframe. Now, wireframes are a low fidelity representation of your design. So it's meant to be done with a pencil, a piece of paper, and it's meant to be really quick. The idea is that, say if you're an architect and you wanted to build a house, you wouldn't go ahead and just build the house straight away, right? You might then discover that, oh, actually I created the roof that's too big for this room, or the windows are too big for the wall, and you end up with a whole bunch of problems that's going to be very, very costly and time consuming to fix later on. And this is exactly the same with websites. Before you write down any code, you want to be able to get buy-in on your designs and be able to iterate through your design process. So you might want to create one version using your wireframe, see if other people like it. If you're working for somebody, that will be your boss. If you're not working for anybody, then it might be friends or colleagues. But essentially, you want to be able to settle on a design before you go ahead and implement it. And that's what wireframing is perfect for. Now, it's meant to be low fidelity, so it's meant to look really, really simple, and it shouldn't take you too long to produce. Now, the opposite of this is what's called a mock-up. Now, a mock-up is meant to be a high fidelity representation of your app or your website's design. And it's almost like you've gone into the future, you've taken a screenshot of what it looks like while it's in action, and you've brought it back into the present to try and show people what it looks like. Now, the great thing about mock-ups is that they are really pretty much what you see is what you're going to end up getting. And if you are getting somebody else to create your website, then it's nice to have a mock-up to show them exactly how you want it to look. Now, the problem with this is that if this is the first thing you start messing around with, you end up getting really stuck on choosing the colors or the icons or which images to include in the mock-up, and it really bogs you down. So the classic workflow is to start off by looking at other people's websites, which will give you a good idea about the layout and the structure, and then looking at some UI patterns. So going to a website like ui-patterns.com and looking at their design patterns. And you think about, the problems that you're actually trying to solve as you're designing your website. So for example, if you needed to have a carousel or basically a slideshow, because the user needs to browse through a set of items and possibly select one of them, then you can see some of the examples that they've picked up, for example, from Amazon or from other places, and look at the solution and the rationale. And this is a really, really good website for understanding how other people have solved problems using web design and to be inspired for your own designs. Then the next step is to create a simple sketched wireframe for planning the layout and seeing where everything is going to be. Then the optional next step is to create a mock-up. So to go into the Sketch app or use something like Photoshop or Illustrator to create really sort of photorealistic versions of your future website. And finally, if you really, really wanted to go the extra mile, then you can actually create what's called a prototype. So an animated version of your website that really shows off what exactly it's going to look like. Now, a really good resource for looking for inspiration on all of these fronts is a website called Dribbble, which is a place where designers put up their portfolios. So, for example, if you just search for something like website, you can come across some really, really beautiful designs that people have created as a part of their job. And also there's prototypes and there's a whole bunch of animations, and it's just a really, really nice place to get inspiration. And a really cool thing about Dribbble is that you can even search Dribbble by color. So you can specify a tone that you quite like, and you can narrow down all of the designs by that particular shade. So this is a really, really cool place where you can get lost for hours and hours, and it's a fantastic starting point to get inspiration for your web design. So let's do the same for our website. Let's start off by creating a wireframe. So how would you go about doing this? So in order to create wireframes, the easiest thing that I tend to recommend is just to use pencil and a piece of paper. Now, if you want, there's a website called Sneak Peek It, and they have these beautiful templates that you can download and print out for browsers or for mobile or for tablets. And you can start drawing on these printouts in order to wireframe your website. And they're free to download. And once you click on download, you get a zip file which you can open up and print out and start wireframing. Now, if you want to be a little bit more advanced in wireframing, then pretty much the industry standard tool is Balsamiq. And I've been using this for a number of years, and it's really, really nice. It's quick, it's really, really easy, and the best part is that it's really collaborative. You can share your designs with, say, somebody who commissioned you to design the website, or you can share it with friends and family or your colleagues, and they can add notes and add comments or change the designs as they need. So it's really, really cool. So we're going to create a wireframe for our upcoming website for our startup so that we know exactly what we need to do when we start coding. So go ahead and either sign up for a free 30-day trial if you want to use Balsamiq, or if you don't, then just go ahead and download and print out some of these wireframe sheets so that you can follow along with me. So I'm just going to log in and I'm going to create a new project. So this is my new project and this is my new wireframe, which is what I'm going to edit. So I'll click on that to open up my canvas. And it's pretty easy to get going. I can just hold down R and start creating a box. I can change the box from rectangle to maybe a browser window. And now I've got a lovely browser window that I'm going to start designing. So on my website, I would first like to have maybe a header section. So let's create a rectangle up here. And this header section is going to have a nice bright color. And then here, I'm also going to have maybe a mobile phone, maybe over here somewhere, down here. So let's change that to a iPhone maybe. Looks good. So we'll use that to show off our app that our startup is developing. So we can put that on the right over here. And then maybe I'll have a section that's maybe some menus over here. So let's just go ahead and search for a link bar. So here's our link bar and we can put it up here on the right. And then maybe we want the link bar to be a little bit more in so that they're aligned on the right. And on the left, maybe I'll add a brand, so maybe like the logo for my company. So I'll just hold down Y and create a large text that maybe looks a little bit like the logo. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then down here, maybe I'll have a little bit more text. So like a large sort of telling people what my app is all about over here. Let's make that maybe left aligned, maybe make that all aligned together. And then finally at the bottom, I probably will want to have some buttons. So let's look for a button and drop it down here. Maybe one will be download on Android, the other one could be download on iOS, and let's use their guidelines to put that in. So that's the top of our page, and we can just keep extending this browser by dragging it down and start designing the next parts of our page. So maybe we would have some images down here that shows off our features. So let's just go ahead and add some of those images in. So we can change our rectangle to an image, and we can copy and paste a number of these into the website. And then we'd probably need a little bit of explainer text underneath. So I'm just going to hold down T and start dragging. Maybe we would need like 2 lines, something like that. And then we can copy that as well and get a few of these for each of our images. And this would basically show off the features of our website. And basically you will just continue designing your website until you're happy with how it looks. So you can search through here for whatever you need, like buttons or images or menus, or you can just navigate through these little different tabs to see what it is that you need. And I want you to create a wireframe for your ideal startup website so that in the future, if you create a website, you'll know how to wireframe it so that you have a guide as to how you should design up your website website when you start coding it up. So I'm going to do the classic thing where I show you, here's one that I made earlier, and this is the mock-up for our Tin Dog project. And basically I've split it into sections so that we've got maybe a header section, a features page, maybe some testimonials, maybe some press that we've had for our startup, pricing table, another call to action at the bottom to try and get people to download it, and finally you've got your social icons, etc. And this took me maybe about 10 minutes to create. So it's very, very quick, and it's meant to be rough and ready to show you the layouts. We don't want to focus too much on the sort of mock-up side of things where we get everything looking pixel perfect, because we're going to do that anyways later on when we create our website. Now, if you want, you can create your wireframes in Balsamiq. Alternatively, if you don't want to give them your email, then you can just print out the templates from SneakPeek and draw it by hand as well. So if you have designed anything particularly fantastic, I want to see it in the Q&A section so that we can judge who has the best designs for this theoretical startup that you're going to make. And points are awarded for not only great web design, but also for how crazy your startup ideas can be. So pause the video and give this challenge a go. Now, in the next lesson, we're actually going to go about implementing all of this design using Bootstrap by hooking it up with various components. So for all of that and more, I'll see you on the next lesson.